We're ending 2020 very shortly. And in the words of my maternal grandmother, Beulah, wife to a Baptist deacon, let's just go ahead and say goodbye to this shit show. It's the Freedom Roundup. Welcome to the Freedom Roundup. I'm Shaun Horner, Executive Director of the Heartland Fund Incorporated. Joining me in tonight's podcast is Kress Cambers, Treasurer for the Jackson County Republican Party, and special guest Greg Moody, Michelle Horner, High Noon Republican President and Executive Committee Member for the Heartland Fund Incorporated, and last but not least, Jeff Coleman, 32nd District Representative for the state of Missouri. Hello, all.
Hey!
I thought we'd start out with something a little bit different this evening. Since we got Greg here, we'll get him into the mix really early. So I wanted to do, we always do so well when we do the roundup, the round table stuff. So we start off with a really simple roundup. I want to hear, and as promised, I do Jeff last. I want to hear.
Wait a second.
Your biggest political impact, your dumbest political impact, and then we'll pass it from person to person. What you considered both pivotal politically and also just the dumbest political thing that happened so far this year. For example, somebody tried something or did something either foolhardy, foolish, dumb, more than likely has a D after their name. So, well, let's go through. We'll start with Kress first. I'm going to throw you right to the wolves, Kress, and I want to hear your biggest, what you think had the biggest political impact on 2020.
All right, so there's a lot of impact right here for this year in 2020. Not only your question I'm going to unpack, but the year itself. We have the coronavirus hit and became a big thing and became very politicized between the Republicans and Democrats, because Republicans seen as let's let us live our own life, and Democrats want extreme lockdown on everything. Not only that, but we've got the election that happened, the debates. This was a huge year for politics as it in general. We've seen the nation be more divided, and I guess to roll into the stupidity of it, we've seen the division grow more between the two parties and our country be extremely divided on both fronts. It's no longer Republican versus Democrat. It is now basically our conservative traditional values versus extreme far left progressive values. Trying to put that in a nutshell, because we don't have all night.
Oh, we got all night. We got plenty of time, at least for us. All right. So, Greg, what if you were to pick one thing? What was the biggest item politically that you would bring as your number one piece?
I think, like Kress said, there's a lot of things that happen. It's kind of tough to choose between all of them. You could say Black Lives Matter, the protests, the rioting. The
peaceful protesting.
The mostly peaceful protesting.
The mostly peaceful protesting.
Right. But I think I think the most pivotal thing was actually probably the mail-in balloting, because I think that changed the election, the mail-in balloting and the early voting, just because, that's really the reason Joe Biden is president right now, just because of what they were able to do through the mail-in votes. The dumbest thing, I think, along those same lines is virtually every time Joe Biden opened his mouth, like with the I let kids straighten my legs, the hair on my legs. The corn pop thing, when he literally was incoherent.
The pony soldier. What was the pony? Anyone remember what that was?
You lying dog-faced pony soldier.
That's it. Yeah.
Or more recently.
Well, that's why they hid him in his basement. right? I mean, and run and cover and hope for.
They knew they were going to do the political fraud,
yeah.
so the election fraud.
All right, so Michelle, what you thought was the biggest political impact? If you were to pick one piece.
Wow, there's so much bad this year. Politically, it's just been a storm between the peaceful protests, somewhat peaceful protests, but weren't. The coronavirus, the mask mandates, on top of the election fraud. I think the election fraud is the biggest, that so many people know that there's election fraud, and over 17 million people have come out and spoke out to state reps and stuff, and how they're still just ignoring the fact that there's election fraud, and the Supreme Court just denying it. But I think that's more on the fact that they don't want to deal with it. To the mask mandates, which I think is just probably one of the stupidest, but it's also probably one of the biggest, because when you has anybody here opened a pack of the cloth mask yourselves? Me and Shaun did.
Absolutely.
Oh, wait. I think
there is an insert in each thing, and on the front it's Chinese. And on the back, you flip it over, and it says, "These are not used for medical purposes. These are only for decoration."
What it says.
So the ones we get for work, because now
they're
we're
only
required.
the cloth ones, if you buy them like at Kohl's and stuff, because I bought some for the kids, and I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And I looked because it has Chinese, and then I flipped over the back. I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" It's like, has anybody actually read this crap?
It
that
says
they're only
not to be used to protect against coronavirus.
And they, but everyone's still, and if you don't wear one of these stupid masks, people give you this look. So I stopped wearing my mask, or I'll put it on, but then I'll just put it underneath my chin, because it's nothing more than to control the people. And the Chinese have even said that they want to control us, and they do it by doing little things like covering your face, and which the Muslims do to their women, and they start teaching people to cover their face. So to me, the stupidest part is people believing this and trying to think that this is actually making them healthier. I think that is probably the dumbest thing. The American people have fallen into this blanket of feeling safety by just covering your face on this piece of cloth, instead of believing in God and having faith that your own body is going to take care of yourself. Because yes, the corona is real, but it does affect everybody differently. If you have faith in God and you just take care of yourself, you're normally going to get over it. So that's my 2 cents.
There's your two. All right, Jeff. You're last. You're next to last up. I'll go last.
Oh, thank goodness. Holy cow, I'm sitting here thinking,
okay.
What is it? Well, I think
pick your biggest
thing is the hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
The hypocrisy of the Democrats who will tell you not to go out for Thanksgiving or go out for Christmas or New Year's Eve, but yet they'll go out to eat and not wear a mask with many friends, and I think you know who I'm talking about, or they'll go out and get their hair done and get all their ice cream, and blame it on
gourmet ice cream.
Yeah, and blame it on the other people for them doing what they did. I mean, Nancy Pelosi goes and gets her hair done, but yet blames it on the hairdresser for letting her come in.
Yeah.
So on that topic, Jeff, we went to an event. We'll keep it vague. We went to an event, and one of the prominent Democrats in Missouri was there. No mask.
No, there were multiple
Democrats. But I'm just saying, one of the prominent Democrats.
Yes, but they're
harping over this mask thing. No mask.
That's right.
No social distancing.
I think there was, out of all the Democrats that were elected officials, that's all I'll say, I think there were 11 there, one of them had a mask on.
Wow.
But yet after the fact, they wanted to come after the governor and say, he's out there with no mask on. That's the hypocrisy that I'm talking about. And the fact that the media has caused such divide in our country. The media,
well, I think
social media.
I think fear.
Yep.
Fear. There's folks that are afraid, and when you talk to them, they're not. I don't want to call them stupid or ignorant or anything like that. I think they're the biggest problem that they have is they're not. They're buying in the fear. They're afraid, and perhaps they have one of those mitigating factors, because we're always told that obesity or diabetes or a comorbidity,
Right.
You're in trouble. If you have one of those, you're scared to death to leave your house.
Yep. Well, here's the thing. People will sit here on the opposite side of the aisle, the people I'm talking about right now, and they'll listen to this tonight and say that we don't care about anybody.
Right.
That we're just there. We're putting out all this rhetoric that doesn't really add up to what the concern should be with COVID. Yet, on the other side of that, they're doing exactly the same thing. They're coming after us. We're coming at it with facts and real numbers. They'll come at it, and they will come after us for making these kinds of statements and say how horrible we are that we're not giving the whole truth.
Right.
But that's exactly what they're not doing.
Right.
It's crazy, and it makes me crazy, and I just wish it would go away. 2021.
Yeah, just a scant few hours away. For me, the biggest is kind of what Greg was saying. Mine was a step further, was the blatant ability of states to ignore their own laws when it comes to elections, using the pandemic as the excuse. The excuse du jour. Same way they're doing executive power, right? They're doing the same thing. They're saying, hey, we can get past this because this needs to be done. Buck up and get past that. The dumbest piece, I'll just tack on to the end. What I felt was the dumbest. We had a conversation before we started the podcast this evening where we talked about the basement man Biden getting more votes counted than Obama, and to me, anyone who's being intellectually honest would want to question. I'm not even questioning. I'm not even going so far as to question the election per se, although I am. I'm just looking at raw facts, raw numbers, and I have a hard time believing that
80 million votes.
Yeah,
I don't buy it.
No, I can't. Somebody who didn't campaign, who seriously didn't campaign, who went on a lockdown, who was locked down 3 or 4 consecutive weeks there.
And then you watched his rallies. Nobody came. Nobody. Literally no. Well, not literally, but nobody came.
Maybe a handful of people in each event. There wasn't that many at all.
Yeah, but you had all those cars, like 10.
Tens of tens.
And then you have this old man sitting there yelling at cars. It was hysterical.
Yeah. Well, and then remember that one event that he had that was right across from the Republican event, and you could hear in the background the Republicans cheering for Trump over him speaking. You couldn't even hear him speak because they were so loud for Trump. It was hilarious.
It was great.
I'm just really concerned. It's been too easy for our public officials to just do emergency powers for no real reason. Whether it's a test run or it was just a mad grab, I'm not going to speculate. But it just seemed way too easy to just go, we have to overlook this because of COVID.
Well, and another thing that's really sort of kind of shocking me with all of this, which none of us have brought up, which to me it's a big political thing, which I should have brought up, is the fact that nobody in our House or Senate has mentioned China training with Canada and Mexico on our borders.
Absolutely, with the Canadians.
And they've done it with Mexico too.
So I didn't hear about Mexico, but I definitely heard about the Canadians, which is
that's
very scary.
It's scary.
Well, Mexico's
on our front doorstep.
Mexico's kind of stuck because I believe that there are 2 bases that they allowed China through the Belt and Road Initiative to establish.
See, I didn't know that.
I believe 2. I'd have to look. I was not prepared to discuss that. But yeah, that doesn't fit the biggest or dumbest. That's just damn scary.
Well, I'm just saying it's just our Republicans and our senators should be speaking up and saying something about it.
Well,
Because
we appear to be spinning up our war machine, but once again facing the other direction. I don't know if you all saw that relatively recently, that we had B-52s
Correct.
doing extra
Yep.
flights.
Yep.
It's like we're spinning up. We're preparing for our never.
Well, not only that, we have our naval ships on both sides of the coast preparing for some type of attack, it looks like. I don't know why they would be in a maneuver position for that, other than possibly. So this could be. Okay, walk with me for a second. This could go a couple of ways, guys. If Trump stays in office,
they're going to try to overthrow him.
they're going to try to overthrow him.
Yeah.
If Biden gets in, the Chinese are going to walk right in.
Yep.
And or possibly cause a war that we do not want to see in our future. You want to talk about nuclear
This is scary.
war?
Yeah, this is scary.
There is serious trouble on the horizon.
One way or the other. It's
One way or the other, yes.
Where China just walks in with Biden, or China fights its way in with Trump. And I think, remember, Trump's campaign allowed Biden's team to do with the Pentagon, and the Pentagon gave him false information, and immediately China moved their troops to the area that they told Biden's team, and they kicked the Biden's team out because they leaked the information where the troops
and
were.
they stopped giving him the national security briefing, their daily national security briefings because of that.
He was leaking information to China, and no one in the mainstream news media is talking about this.
I mean, why would they when they're all in cahoots?
No, you can't.
With
They're
China.
all on the left for Beijing Biden.
They're just
So-
trying
They're
to
all
literally
bought out by
carry-
China. They all are
They're
bought out.
literally trying to carry him over the finish
They're
line.
carrying a dead corpse
They're just like
Weekend at Bernie's
we
across the
gotta-
finish line.
We got to get him there, and then Kamala.
Well, he even said it, President Kamala. But I'm just saying that none of us have mentioned
Yeah,
all
'cause-
of this, and all of us. Yes, there's so much, but this is one thing that this is going to affect China. The stuff with China is going to really affect us. I think this is going to have a big impact to us. We're going to get a war that we weren't expecting.
The other thing, if we have time,
you're fine.
Yeah, the I don't know if it's the dumbest or whatever, but the weirdest thing it is actually the weirdest thing I've seen in my following politics, working at campaigns, the vote count stopping for as long as it did. In all the years I've been an observer, and all the years I've worked on campaigns, I've never seen anything like that. And then all of a sudden, Biden is ahead after that. Wow,
Yeah.
what a shock.
Yeah. Well, look, we found
200,000 votes. No one has ever
At 3
jumped in
a.m.
history that many votes, and it didn't go towards, libertarian or to anything. Only to Biden. It didn't
Yeah.
go to anybody else in all the other parties. Just to Biden, which that's never happened either.
Yeah, there was not there. Yeah, there's a that not just the vote count, but certainly when we start talking about what they refer to as down ballot, right? Where it's not just the head of the ticket, but everyone else.
Right.
It's like the head of the ticket, nothing
Right.
else.
Right? Yeah, exactly. It was just the head of the ticket.
It was like
And there were
200,000
only-
votes, and it's like, well, then nothing.
Yeah, but they only voted for Biden. They didn't vote for the governor.
Right.
They didn't vote for the senator.
Right.
They only voted
It
for
was
Biden.
only Biden votes,
Yeah,
right?
it is only the top of the ticket and nothing else. So
Sorry, but did you know it was our favorite senator's birthday today?
no, I did not. Whose birthday?
Josh Hawley's?
Yeah.
I did not know it was Josh Hawley's birthday.
Now, why did we all presume it was Josh Hawley?
Just
Well.
letting you know.
Well, happy birthday, Josh.
Yeah.
Since I know he's coming up to our be one of our subjects, I
So-
thought maybe we should
Well,
mention it.
and-
Was
let
his
me ask you guys this
birthday.
too before we transition.
Yeah.
Anybody else get a Christmas card from Josh Hawley?
Did you really?
I did.
Man, do I need to just do a virtual finger to you?
You're at the same table, so you don't have to.
You got.
Oh yeah, we got
he
one
sent-
last year also.
He sent mine to you. That's what it was.
I don't.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Do you have something to say?
Well, okay, so how did you
Becky
get?
yourself.
Did you donate to him or?
No, I think it's because I ran a race.
Yeah.
Yeah, a congressional race the year he ran.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah. Jerk.
You didn't get one though?
I did not get one.
Did Coleman get one?
I did not get one.
Oh damn!
I don't
feel
believe.
special, guys.
You should.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't.
But
don't
I
believe
do like
did.
him, so
I only set up his Kansas City office. Why would I get a...
Well,
Why would
and
you-
did you see also?
Oh, 'cause-
we're on just on this subject. Mitch McConnell did a call for the GOP, and he called out Josh Hawley for why he's going to reject those votes, and Hawley wasn't even on the call. It is on all over right now on Facebook. I thought you guys might want to know.
Nobody likes Cocaine Mitch, it seems. All right, so let's go ahead. Since we already mentioned Hawley, let's talk about him and what he's currently doing about the electoral count. That's you, Kress. I'm looking at you because you really wanted.
It's
to
going
talk
my
about-
way. I'm sorry.
This time I wanted you to talk.
So on the last solo podcast that we did, or that I did, I talked about from the constitutioncenter.org, Senator-elect Tommy Tuberville standing up and basically denying, or what's the word I'm looking for?
Rejecting.
Rejecting. Thank you. Rejecting the
That
results.
was Jeff Coleman, by the way.
I'm sorry, Jeff. We're sort of overthrowing.
Yeah, Jeff and I are just quietly listening because we're.
Rejecting the results, and I said there's many other senators thinking about doing it. Well, Josh Hawley actually stepped up, and he said that he is going to reject the results as well, which is awesome. And I was thinking, what did I tell you, Jeff, the other day, that a Missouri...
Question.
What?
Question.
Yes.
So here we've got, it's a softball, so get ready.
Okay.
So here we've got the junior senator, Josh Hawley,
Yes.
doing this. But the senior senator who helped the original inauguration of our president, Roy Blunt, where is he at?
So, Mr. Senator Blunt, he said that the election results are what they are, and he is not going to reject the results, which we know he was part of the entire quote-unquote swampiness establishment part of it.
The cufflink.
He was just excited, I think, that... I'm excited is not the word. Let me rephrase this. He was going with the flow. His state overwhelmingly voted for Trump. So, of course, he had to be on the train or not, back of a lack of a better word, Trump train phrase. Mm-hmm. So, he's wishy-washy. But Senator Hawley said that...
He's always been a Trump supporter.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, he rode his coattails in.
He rode his coattails.
I mean, in a good
that's
way.
how we got elected. And he got overwhelmingly elected, yeah.
But what did I tell you, Jeff? There was going to be a Missouri representative also standing up saying that they would reject the results. And who did I say?
Billy Long.
Billy Long. And come to find out...
Back to the bay.
Sold!
Yeah, and Jason Smith is
So
come out.
Jason, come to find out today, Ann Wagner,
Yep.
Jason Smith, we have Billy Long, of course, Sam Graves, and Vicky Hartzler. The 6 out of the 8 federal representatives that we had, the other 2 are Democrats, so of course they're going to be throwaways and not,
Yeah.
They're going to reject these results, which is very exciting.
My name's David. I'm Jeff Coleman's son.
Hey, David, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, so why should they accept the results when they fail to audit half of the states? Like, why, if they're not afraid of anything, why wouldn't they want to audit?
Right.
Like, if it's so secure, then the audit should show nothing, correct?
Correct. You're correct.
But they won't allow the audit in 2 areas, Maricopa County and Arizona, as well as in Georgia. They're not, because they know that there's fraud there.
Saying,
they know there's fraud there, and they don't want to do it. They're fighting it.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Like, if there's nothing to hide, then the audit should be no problem.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Then they should just be able to audit and be fine.
So I also think, Michelle, we're going to disagree on this 110%. The claws are coming out, and I see the virtual middle fingers coming up.
1, 2, 3, go.
I think this is very, very dangerous for democracy. And I'll tell you why. If our team can do it now, and we say it's okay, what it's gonna start a precedent. And what's going to stop the Democrats from doing it next time?
Well, and that's the thing is that the Democrats have been doing this for years, debating. Every
Thank
time a
you.
Republicans
Exactly.
wins, they've always been doing this. But the thing is that we're also setting a precedent by allowing the voter fraud to keep continuing. Because once you've continued the voter fraud,
And we've
it's
always-
never going to end. And we know that now it has come out that maybe even Obama got elected via voter fraud. So they're saying that this goes back to just not the president. This has gone back to why California
Well, and
is
we've
being
always joked
elected and
about-
all this other stuff. If you continue to let this happen, we are going to become a banana republic in every aspect of the term banana republic. Yeah.
California is a banana.
It really is. But we as the United States are becoming a banana republic if we allow it to happen. We have to stop it. And we should have stopped this when Trump got in, because we knew the reason that they were shocked that Trump won and not Hillary, because there was voter fraud in that election. They just didn't do it
But it's been
enough.
systemic for years.
But
We've
I'm just saying
allowed-
they should have stopped it way back then instead of voicing their opinion now. That's why we're in the situation we're in, because they didn't stop it.
The thing I'd say in Trump's defense in that, though, is that the game changed a lot with coronavirus and with mail-in balloting, and I think they did a lot to try and stop the mail-in balloting. But it all happened very quickly.
And they went against
in
their
the
own
name
laws.
of name of Corona, right? They did the
Exactly.
whole.
In the
well,
name
we
of
need to
Corona.
do this because it's too dangerous.
And that's why they did Corona. They did the Corona to scare people to do the voter fraud, because they knew that's the only way they're going to be able to get it through.
I think this is exactly what the bill that Pelosi wanted to pass in 2019. It almost looks exactly like as we have it right now.
That's
Yeah.
that's very true, and that keys into what you guys were saying, and that's my biggest problem with this whole thing, and why I don't think it damages the republic. I think it actually restores it, because for as long as I've been on this planet, we've always joked that dead people always vote Democrat. All right, it's just a joke. We've all made the joke and everything, but it became like
It's true.
I know, well, but my point is that we've allowed that to kind of happen, kind of be okay, and to what Michelle was saying, if we don't attack this head on to the point where it's not worth their time to keep doing it, even in small doses, I think that it's dangerous.
So my question is, where is this Kraken that we were supposed to get from?
I think there's a lot more going on in the scenes that we're learning and we're being told.
I don't
think
know.
there really, really is.
I
I don't
thought
know.
we were supposed to have a huge
I
Kraken
want
helmet.
one.
She's filed a lot of suits that we
I
are not
know.
aware of.
I want one major person that
To
I
be arrested?
know to be arrested. I think I said this.
You're
in one
never
of our
going to
early
get that.
pop-
You're not
I
going
know.
to get that
I know,
right
that's my
now,
point.
because Biden should have been arrested years ago. Obama should have. Pelosi should have. I mean, you're listing all these people that have done some. I mean, Biden. I mean, look at all the stuff he's been paid off by China. I mean, his son should have been arrested with all
The
this
big
stuff
guy.
on him.
The big guy, yeah.
Yeah.
From the emails.
Yeah.
But
But nothing's happened. I mean, nothing's happened to Clinton, for crying out loud, and they have all this proof.
that was what I was going to say. We go back to the Clinton issues of washing her computer and getting rid of her cell phones.
Bleach bit.
But-
Yeah,
bleach
thank
bit,
you.
Thank you.
And if you or I would have done that, we would have been in prison already.
Oh yeah, it's
And yet she's still out there. And now we have Hunter Biden, who's doing this with this whole process of the China and the Russian as
yeah.
Ukraine. And we're not going to do anything. Nothing's going to happen to him.
and all they're proving is it's good for them, but not good for you. There's two sets of laws: a set of laws for the elite, and then there's a set of laws for us underdogs. And so, and that's one thing, like where this Black Lives Matter, when you really think about it, comes in somewhat of a play with us, is that they're saying we shouldn't have the police, we shouldn't have this. Well, guess what? Technically, the upper class already don't have it. They don't have the police force. They have them to protect them, but they don't have the police to smack them on the hands and say, no, you can't do that. So it's like they're trying to push what they're doing on us, though it's not the same. Does it make sense?
It's just so it's so frustrating to
It
me.
is very frustrating.
that-
It's very frustrating because it's good for me, but it's not good for you. It's always been that way with them.
Well, it's on.
Yeah, the communist. Yeah, I was trying
It's
to
on,
think of that too.
yeah, it's on that. It's on every level, though. I mean, even here local, when you have the director of the health organization here, the Kansas City
Health department.
Thank you. And
Our
go
buddy
ahead.
Rex Archer.
That's right. Here he is up there through this whole process saying you can go to work and you can't go to work. The big boys can go to work. The little guys, you can't go to work.
Which is funny because when we were at Walmart, it was yesterday. No, it was today. It was today. We went to Walmart and there was this huge line, and I'm like, "This is okay," but
Yeah. So my point is that you can sit there and tell somebody that they can't work. You take away their incomes, but yet you're making $250,000 freaking dollars a year, and you're still making your income.
That's always been the case. I mean, through this entire COVID thing, it has been a systematic dismantling of small business and the middle class.
Yeah.
well,
I mean,
that's where the
I
money
don't know if
is.
it's on purpose,
is
but it's certainly
to get
been
rid of
the-
those small businesses, because those are the people that are for Trump. The small businesses that make their own money are the Trump supporters, the big corporations. Hence, what Walmart did to Josh Hawley,
Yeah.
where he made that they made that comment. Yeah, good for your 2-hour. Good job for getting your 2-hour debate. I mean, that's just shows you that the big corp's not for the small man. I mean, I know Walmart eventually deleted that, but who are they hiring? Who are they hiring? And what are they?
We don't want to go. We don't want to go to the place where companies have to either get apolitical individuals or do anything like that.
Well, you should. When you have somebody controlling your social media, you should tell them stay out of it.
Well, there used to be a level of decorum that we don't have anymore. And we talked about this a couple of podcasts ago. I think we lost that, where it used to be, using my analogy, it was like I had my team, you had your team, but it didn't matter because we were both members of the NFL, right? Now that's not the case. It's almost like, you've got your team, I've got my team, and neither of the two shall ever come together. So, unfortunately, I think in those cases, those individuals that post that, in this case for Walmart, I think they are so bitter and so focused that they think they're doing good, and they think they're doing it with everyone else behind them.
I don't know if they think that they're doing good. I think they've been so brainwashed.
Well, that's what I'm saying is they think they're doing good.
I thought the
Go ahead, Dave.
good.
I mean, you just got to look at it like the stuff that's happening doesn't affect them. In most cases, they grow in wealth,
Right.
while we
Right.
shrink in wealth. It doesn't affect them like it affects us.
Right.
So they might say that they care, but they don't really care because
They care when they see their paychecks
Exactly.
going to change.
Yeah.
The thing I kind of along those same lines, the thing I thought was interesting about that exchange on Twitter is you really saw, and I think you saw it in the last election with some of the who was voting for Trump. The Republican Party is very quickly becoming the party of the working class.
Right.
It is absolutely becoming the party of the working class.
And this really, because there's that group that goes, Biden is not my president, which is now the second largest group on Facebook now, because they have over 100 million. They have over 1 million plus subscribers already listed on this, and they keep growing. But I think it's 1.4 now, and they're trying to keep growing it. But to tell you how many people don't like that Biden's our president, and that they didn't
Until they take away.
And then they're going to
Facebook's
take
230, which I wanted to talk about because we had this conversation outside earlier. We were talking about, and I wanted to bring this up since we're talking about Hawley. One of the things he was talking about was taking away that 230 rule, right? The publisher versus not publisher thing. And Greg, you brought up a great point, which I wanted you to mention now about the implications of that and what would happen from their point of view, from Facebook or Twitter or that sort of thing.
Right. Essentially, basically what it means is that they would become liable for what you post on Twitter and what you post on Facebook. So then the law right now actually favors the left. So if you said something that was totally bigoted, like there are two genders, they could take that down, right?
No, and that's what we're talking about. By taking out that publisher thing, the backlash is they could actually be harsher. because then they'll be liable, which they aren't now, but they would be, and they would have to control even more so.
Well, but then they would get sued more because people saying, well, this wasn't any offensive than this post. So it'd be counterproductive for them to actually move.
Yeah, but it's cheaper than the ACLU.
The thing is, like, the law actually favors the left right now. So you could file a lawsuit, but you would lose.
You would
that
lose
lawsuit.
now, right now. Right now, but
Right.
if it changes, you would win the suit.
And that's what we were talking about with Holly doing this. We were thinking that perhaps what he should do is, instead of strictly getting rid of the 230, create something else, to take its place. That would help,
create something else.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like is actually, I don't know if this is the only solution, but having like a market solution where everybody's moving over to Parler, which is great, but you don't have, it doesn't have it's kind of like a conservative echo chamber at this point. You don't really have.
Yeah,
just,
well, it's sort of like it's a Twitter. I bet it's a Twitter.
It's Twitter.
It's
Yeah,
Twitter.
it is.
And MayWe just doesn't do the same thing because it's harder to follow your friends on MayWe like it is on Facebook. But every time someone has tried to come up against anything against Facebook has bought them out.
Right.
Or they forced them out.
or even remotely close.
I'm kind of trying to deactivate all my social media at this point. I don't know about the rest of everybody. I'm
I
kind
sort
of
of kind of am. Right now I really do more of my Facebook stuff just to PO my liberal friends off. Because I really don't
do the
post
same
a
thing.
lot. I really don't want to post my personal stuff because I don't want people to really know my personal stuff. I post about, losing our son early this year, but I really post more to PO my liberal friends off, and it's really funny because it really makes them mad.
That's what my Instagram story is right now. It's just making liberals mad. What
I
do.
enjoy putting. It's like I'll put funny, something anti-COVID, funny.
Yeah, because I follow Greg. I
get
follow
their
your
attention,
Instagram,
right?
and I'm like, that's a good one. I don't know how to I used to have the repost on Instagram, but I stopped doing Instagram. I look at my Instagram. I just don't post a lot on it but I really think those are the best form of communication is Instagram. I really like, but I'm like you. They were talking about that show, the one that tells you how social media has really changed the way we've done things, and people are so focused on our phones, and we need to get away and step back.
I agree with that. Absolutely agree with that.
That's why I like moving to the country, because we don't have a choice. There's so many other things to do.
There is so many other things to do, like the 1,000 cats we have now. And
yeah, the house came with 1 cat preloaded with 4, so that was awesome. No, it's not. It was,
but
so
but it's like really funny because his sister told us, we went over there the other day to pick a couch and chair up, and she's like, we haven't heard Blythe from her phone in a while. I'm like, well, she's sort of like, she'll remember she has a phone, then she doesn't, then she does, and she doesn't.
The little 7-year-old, yeah.
The little 7-year-old, because we gave her so she could still communicate with people down, her grandma and her aunt and uncle, and my Sean's niece goes, Katie goes, maybe I need to do that. And I'm like, yeah, that's really good, because she
really nice
only
getting
does
away
it when
from it.
she wants to communicate, and then she goes away from it.
Yep,
And she
then she
plays
goes
her
play
games
with
a couple of days. She gets bored, and then she goes plays with her cats or her dogs.
Yep. All right. So I think what we'll do is we'll take a short break, and we will come back and have Jeff talk about his new bill, talking about the property tax, which is a fun and enjoyable thing here in the state of Missouri. So we'll be right back after a moment from our sponsor. This portion of the Freedom RoundUp podcast sponsored by Valley Oak State Company, with location in Kingsville, Oak Grove, and Blue Springs. Promotional consideration provided by the Heartland Fund Incorporated, sponsoring issues and candidates that care. Welcome back. Shaun Horner, Executive Director of the Heartland Fund Incorporated. We wanted to take a moment and not have our phones play music.
It was Chris Pratt.
And I will stop everything for Chris Pratt because he's one of my favorites.
He's a good guy.
He is. I wanted to talk to Jeff Coleman today about the 3 bills he's presenting. Do you want to talk about those real quick? Do you want to?
Yeah.
And one in particular I want to talk about, because we talked about this really early at the beginning of the year about property tax. But talk about the others just briefly, if you would, the other 2.
Okay, so I've got 3 big bills this year. Sorry, I just took a drink. My apologies.
Sorry, I tried to give you time, dude. I tried to give you time.
3 big bills that I pre-filed. the property tax is one of my biggest ones because I'm working on that from last year as well. Yeah. But also, I've got a bill that stops social media censorship.
Okay.
That's a big thing. And then the third one is limiting our local health departments, limiting their powers, because I'm so sick of our local health departments and them telling us when we can work, when we can't work, when we can go to church, when we can't go to church.
And how many can go to church.
Exactly.
Right? Not even
and what time we have to stop eating.
I think this deserves a round of applause.
And on top of those health officials don't follow their own rules or regulations.
Exactly.
It's the most. I don't know how to put this nice. Yeah, I think it's the one time of the year. No, I was thinking, trying to put this nicely, but I mean, it's the most diabolical tyranny that it just kind of seeps in. Well, we're doing got to do this. It's like, and then now it's gotten to the point where it's ridiculous, right? Now it's wear your mask, but we don't care how you touch it and what you touch. Or
how you throw it away.
COVID becomes extremely active after 10 p.m.
Right. Exactly.
What? No. It just seems like it
would be probably the opposite, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It just seems like they're trying so hard to just let's turn this dial up just one more. Let's see how much more we can get away with just a little.
Well, you have to remember that. Wow, that during the American Revolution, people got together in churches and bars, and that's where they congregated to talk and to revolt against the oppression of the Britain government. And the rules and regulations that these health officials are doing prevent people from going to any of these places that people congregated during the American Revolution to congregate and talk about stuff to overthrow the government. So they're doing exactly that. That's why I think this bill is wonderful, because it takes that power away from those officials trying to get people away from congregating, because that's all that these liberal officials want to do to the American people.
Yeah. These bureaucrats need to be controlled somehow. They're unelected people, and this bill will, I'll let you talk about it, but this bill will rein them in.
Yeah, it will. I'd really, probably at this point in time, because of our time restraints, want to get back to the tax bill.
Yeah, because that's the one we want to mention.
Let's come back to this bill, because I think it's extremely important. Yeah.
We'll do this the next podcast.
Yeah. And it's really near and dear to my heart, because it's so frustrating. But going back to the property tax bill that we're working with is for so this property tax bill is strictly for your residential homes.
To counteract what was...
Yeah, I mean, I was on a special committee two summers ago, and that committee was for all municipal taxes. The problem from that committee, what we found is the biggest frustration from people were they were coming in and testifying to the fact that they were afraid of losing their homes. Yeah. Some of them were in the process of losing their homes. So that being the case, what I took away from those meetings is that we need to do something. And so what I wanted to do is to change what we're doing, because currently that the assessors have a team of people, and they go out, and their job, based upon what the State Board of Equalization says, is to make sure that all the homes in their counties are between 90 and 110% of value, what the current values are.
Whatever that value is.
Yeah. Well, my first problem is, what in the world, why are we even allowing them to go more than 100%? Why are we charging people 10% more than what their value should have been, and then charging them taxes on top of that? So it doesn't make any sense.
Well, and you're assuming the assessed value is anywhere close to their purchase value, which if they've been living in that home for decades, the likelihood is it's not.
Exactly. Well, and Kress was telling me, hey, well, you got to make sure that people don't think that you're trying to keep their home values from increasing in case they want to sell their house. That does not come into play here at all.
Right. And it shouldn't.
The only thing that this does is it stops the unbelievable increases for the values on how they tax your home, what they tax your home.
We saw
on.
them do.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So what it does away with everything we've done so far.
Yay.
Because there's really no standardization across the state. No matter if you go to your county assessor and ask them how they come up with their value, they won't be able to tell you.
No.
So what this does is it goes strictly to CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index. The Consumer Price Index is a factor of inflation. It has lots of different things that it looks at, including housing.
Correct.
Right? So when we look at CPI and we look at it over the last 40 years, the average annual increase has been just under 2% per year. So you can look at your at the end of the year. Whoa, that was
It gave me PTSD. I jumped.
They're shooting off fireworks a little early.
When you can look at your value at the end of the year and add the CPI, here's how it works. You can go on Google, you can go to the newspaper and find out what CPI is, and you can put that towards your current value, and you'll know exactly how much your value is going to be at the end of the year, which is not something you've been able to do
ever
at any time.
No, it was a magical number that somebody came up with, and I remember having that conversation with my father when I was younger, saying, how does this come up? And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always been that way.
Most people don't.
No.
So what this does is Jackson County, I'll use that as an example, it stops the assessor from increasing your value. What the last time we had values that increased 10, 15, 25, 100%. There was one over a 400%.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was increased. And this does away with all of that.
Just insane.
So if we get this passed through the House and through the Senate, which I'm going to need everyone's help to do, because it's vital to get this thing through. I need people to come down and to testify or to send your emails to me, which some people have already done, that tells me about their testimony so I can provide that to the committees. And also, just as important, if I'm not your state representative, call your state representative, call your state senator, and call the governor's office. Mm-hmm. Tell them that this is important to you.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, especially since we're past an election year that the I don't want to say the critical issues kind of get put under the rug, and you certainly need that kind of push for property tax, because we'll just fall back on the good old ways we've always done it, right?
So Jeff, other than calling your office phone at 573-751-1487.
That's a nice plug there.
To talk to Beth, your LA.
Right.
How would they be able to email you and contact you other than that with what they've been doing with their property tax, with their troubles with their property tax?
Yeah, you can also email me at jeff.coleman, that's COLEMAN, at house.mo for Missouri.gov. So jeff.coleman at house.mo.gov. That's the best way to get a hold of me.
I'm just curious, are you familiar with Prop 13 in California?
Yes.
Okay. Is this kind of similar idea?
Somewhat, yep.
Uh-huh.
Yep. The difference is on this and Prop 13 in California is Prop 13 has a specific number that they go up by every year.
Yes.
2.25, I think, maybe 2.75.
That's about right. Yep.
Okay. And this will go up by whatever the CPI is, which the average has been under that number, but it is an average. So just depends on what CPI is for that year. CPI is something that is been very steady, and it's something that you can count on, and it makes it so much more simple than what we've had to do in the past. The idea of trying to reduce the taxes came from the Prop 13, and I was out there for some time, and I really appreciated that. And right now, this is there to try to help our seniors specifically and our low-income people. In our last committee meetings over the summer, again, the seniors and the low income were the biggest because they're the ones that are getting hit the worst on this. So again, we just need your support. Look for our town hall meetings, and those will be both virtual and in person. They'll be across the state, so look at our Facebook. That's where we'll be announcing most of them. We'll try to get emails out. And just know that we appreciate your support. I appreciate the opportunity to serve you and to do the things that we need to do to try to bring these things back under control.
Yeah.
This is going to be a very good bill to help our senior citizens and the low-income residents, and especially senior citizens on fixed incomes.
I was gonna say anybody on fixed income.
Yeah.
If you can't count on that fixed income going up and your house goes up, 400% tax-wise, you're
So,
dead in the water.
I want to ask Jeff, it said on your social media there's some special interest groups that are trying to fight this and organizations that are fighting it. Who is trying to fight this, and why would they want to interfere with you helping out the low-income residents and senior citizens on fixed incomes? I mean, that just sounds...
Well, and that brings up a good point, because the folks which I hesitate a little bit, because I understand that they're concerned. I don't want to put them in a bad light, but I will tell you, schools are concerned that I'm gonna eliminate their cash flow, and that's not happening at all. It's the furthest from the truth. Schools will still get increases in their budgets. They think that the budgets are going to go stale or go down. That's not going to happen, because CPI is going to allow that to go up every year. We're not taking away what they're already getting, even though that's what they put out, and that's what they want to say to people, is that this bill is no good because it's going to take away our budgets. We're not going to be able to pay our teachers.
Right.
So does it take away the budgets at all?
Absolutely does not.
Then why are they saying it does?
Because they won't eventually get that 1 in 10 cash cow that goes up 400%, right?
So then what does the schools have to do, with you being on the school board out in Grain Valley, what do the schools have to do then if they're not going to get tax money off of this? Because we already know they get tax money off of tobacco, get tax money off of lottery, and they get tax money from the gambling boats on the river.
Yeah, well, the thing is that, there's lots of places that they have tax revenue, but as a board member, we as a board can raise our tax levy at any time we want to.
And how do you do that then?
We go to the people. We have a certain level.
So you're able to go to the public and ask for it on the ballot.
That's right.
Ballot.
That's
okay.
right. So we have a certain level that we can raise without the vote of the people, because they've already given that takes tax base to us.
Right.
So if we go up to that level and we still need more money, then we can go out to the public on a ballot and ask them for an increase in the tax levy. The point to that is getting approval for it.
Okay.
But if that's one of the biggest concerns that the schools have, is that, well, if we go out to the people and have to ask them every time, they may say no. That's my point.
Right.
It's the right of the people. It's not being taxed without having information and knowing what you're doing as a school board. Mm-hmm. And so the schools they like the fact that we get an increase in tax assessments, because as we get increases in tax assessments, their tax revenues go up. And so it's kind of hidden through those tax assessments.
Really?
Right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if people know this. I'm glad you're talking about it right now.
It gets so muddled in the weeds, they probably don't.
Yeah. It's hard because I like public schools. I went to public schools. All my family went to public schools. The point is that this is not to go against public schools.
No.
It has nothing to do with them.
This is to preserve the homes of our.
I was going to say, because deep down, it doesn't make any sense if you want this failed and broken piece to keep going. You're going to lose tax base.
Correct.
Right? You're either going to tax somebody out of their home permanently or make it so that nobody can afford that home.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
you're right.
Another.
You're absolutely correct.
I mean, how does that not affect? I mean, you can't tell me that doesn't affect the schools more with that going away, right?
There, especially in the older schools that have been around for a long time, whose population is not growing.
Yeah.
So those are the people that get hurt the worst.
Yeah.
Those school districts are the ones that get hurt the worst.
Oh, absolutely.
So that huge debacle happened. You said that you wanted to fix on it. Give us a synopsis one more time.
Basically, it does away with everything we currently do. So the Board of Education, no market values anymore. Going forward, the assessor can only raise your property value by CPI or Consumer Price Index.
Okay.
Okay. Property value does not come into play here. Your property value will continue to grow and do all the things that you're normally going to get.
What if I sell my house?
You're going to sell your house for whatever the market value is.
Okay.
So it does not affect that whatsoever. It's only on your assessment value for your taxes. So CPI, Consumer Price Index, go look it up. You can look at it on Google. You can look at it on the newspapers. You'll be able to see exactly how much your property value would increase for this next year.
So how did you decide to bring it to CPI?
Because that's a good inflationary number. It kind of trends with what happens on a senior's Social Security.
I was gonna say that's what's tied to Social Security.
Yeah.
And then that's
So
what I thought.
if your Social Security goes up by a certain amount, you'll notice that the CPI will track with that. That's not what they look at as far as determining what your Social Security is going to be, but it does track with it.
I went to a couple of the town halls that Jeff did on this subject with his constituency, and some of those horror stories were just awful.
It was sad.
I mean, I happened to be lucky at the time, and I've since moved out of Jackson County, but my property wasn't affected.
Good for you.
Well, my property wasn't affected drastically. In fact, I happen to be one of the weird ones where my property was actually assessed lower. So my taxes actually were stagnant for the most part. But I mean, there were folks all over that were jumping up and down.
In fact, our neighbors went up. Our neighbors did go up.
Yeah, our neighbors went up.
And she has the same house.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost the exact same layout. It was bizarre.
Well, just so you know, just because CPI goes up doesn't mean the assessor has to go up. That just means that's the maximum that they can go up. If CPI goes down, guess what? So does your house assessment.
Yeah, and that part I would like to see, right? Because I'd like to see. Well, I'm like anybody. I would love to see taxes, surprisingly go down without somebody having to do so at the point of a gun, or legislation, or however you want to put it. But I would like to see taxes, or a tax, or something like that. I would like to see that actually go down for a change.
Well, lots of people would like to see taxes go away completely.
Well, yeah.
So, but here's the thing you have to understand on property taxes. If we do away with property taxes, you've got to make it up in some other area, whether it's sales tax or whatever, however you do it, because remember, property taxes, the biggest portion are going to the schools.
Right.
Then the other parts are going to your cities, your local municipalities, such as your police, your fire,
library. I remember library being a big one.
Right. And so when you look at your property tax, yeah, it's frustrating to see it. But remember, in taxes, what taxes should be for are for your infrastructure and for your protection.
Yeah.
So with me being on the Republican right, leading libertarian kind of spectrum here, not so hardcore libertarian where I want to abolish every single tax known to man. We need to have some common sense here on what you were saying with the taxes is it'll keep our schools funded. It still will. Mm-hmm. It will still keep our emergency services funded, the libraries,
your infrastructure,
and your infrastructure.
I'm fine as long as we control that tax using some sort of mechanism, in this case CPI or something. I've lived in a state that was entirely sales tax driven, Washington State. I made the mistake, and this is only because I didn't know, of purchasing a vehicle before I moved. So when I moved into that state, they said, congratulations, you purchased a car within the last 6 months. You owe us. Oh yeah. I had to pay sales tax on a car I'd already owned for 4 months.
That is outrageous, egregious,
but the reason I did
and
that,
ridiculous.
But the reason I did that was to avoid the tax, because I knew I'd be moving to that, and that's exactly why they had that law to keep me and other people like me from doing exactly what I did. So I mean, I understand why it was done. It just sucked writing that check again. Not only to the state that I purchased it in originally, that I was no longer living in. Congratulations, here's your bonus. But then moving to this, that sucked. So I mean, I've lived in both. I like what we have here, as long as we don't have these weird, bizarre, gargantuan increases, hiccups, because somebody got lazy, somebody contracted with a company out of state, and that company did a shortcut. I mean, that's what it all came down to, right?
Well, just remember, come out to our town hall meetings. Call your state rep, call your state senator, call the governor's office. Tell them that you want this bill passed. We get it through the House, we get it through the Senate. Then it comes out to you as the voter to vote on. So this is not something that we can do in the legislature. All we can do is try to get it on the ballot. That's what this is all about, and we need your help and your support.
So those were the big topics we wanted to cover. Was there anything else anyone wanted to mention that we didn't cover tonight?
Just want to mention the Thomas Becket, why Trump and the Thomas Becket tweet. I think it's important we mention what Trump did and why he mentioned Thomas Becket.
I appreciate it.
Because Thomas Becket is my husband's saint.
Patron
saint. And the reason he tweeted about Thomas Becket was because he
really liked Peter O'Toole's movie. No.
It's a good movie.
I know, it's my favorite. No, it's because of what he did that basically fueled the mindset that led to the Magna Carta, that led to a bunch of, just basically
religious freedom.
The religious freedom in general. But
Trump retweeted tweeted and mentioned Thomas Becket because he did a thing on religious freedom the same day to make sure he instilled religious freedom in the United States of America.
Yeah, just to reiterate that important piece, because, I mean, like it or not, we are in a weird space where we are allowing that particular freedom to just be kind of put on the back burner. There was a time where we could all freely congregate and worship the way we wanted to. Now, I don't know what it's like for you folks, but it's almost like we have to take a number. And if you're lucky enough to join, you can actually be around other humans. Otherwise, you get to watch a Zoom. That's sadly the way it is right now. So
what's so sad is that these religious leaders are allowing it instead of realizing what's going on.
I think they're starting to wake up, and I think that's gonna continue.
Well, what I think is interesting is how many people literally died when the church was on the ground. Literally died to get people to Eucharist, and now today we're just so scared we're sitting there on Zoom calls. Watching masses. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I remember a picture where they actually showed during the time of the plague, the priest walk around with this huge stick with the Eucharist on the end of it,
right? Because
they didn't want to get close. Here's your social distancing from the 1100s. But boy, howdy,
we're still taking part in the Eucharist, though.
yeah. But you can't have that because
COVID.
Oh. Now, and before COVID spreads to the rest of our folks, I'd like to thank you all for listening on behalf of myself, Kress, Greg, Michelle, Jeff, and David. I almost called you Dave. Sorry, David. And myself, Shaun Horner. Thank you very much for listening, and have a good day. Good night.
Happy New Year. Good night, Sean.
Night all.
Brought to you by the Jackson County Republican Party. Contribute at jacomo.gop. That's JACOMO.GOP. And promotional considerations given by Heartland Funding Incorporated, helping promote traditional values and candidates. Contribute at fundingtheheartland.com.